Number one Ibble Dibble here. Hello friends! Today I just wanted to post a quick video to pay homage, and yes I said homage, not homage, to my hometown, New York, for not giving a single solitary fuck about H&M apparently. I do know that H&M have arrived in New York and done a couple of appearances thus far. So I went looking for photos and news in the New York papers, obviously. Right? The New York Times? Nothing. The New York Post? All the way at the bottom in the page 6 link. Hit the page 6 site. All the way at the bottom between Bianca and Kanye saved it for marriage and Amber Heard burns her lost bridge. Hit the Daily News. Again, all the way at the bottom in the smallest little part of the smallest sidebar in the snide section. I literally scrolled past it and had to scroll back up, reading more carefully to find it. It took me a moment, but I remembered The Observer exists. Nothing, just nothing. By the way, The Observer is all art and lifestyle now. Has it consciously gone highbrow, or is it just Jared's diary because the readership is non-existent? Anyway, love what you've done with the place. Nothing to do with H&M. I love the cold shoulders of New York. To me, as a native daughter, the cold shoulder feels like a warm embrace. I think it's a big part of New York culture and one reason why many people hate New Yorkers that we obviously couldn't care less about. Yes, Israel is of course bigger news. Yes, the SBF trial is way more relevant to our lives, not to mention more enthralling than anything H&M have ever or will ever say or do. But the placement of these news items is, I think, I suspect, my conspiracy allegedly, a bit of revenge for the cab fiasco and a gentle reminder that they need the press far more than the press needs them, and it made me chuckle. So let's chat briefly about how their charity work isn't charity work at all. Their first New York wannabe royal engagement appears to have been at the Marcy Lab School, a tuition-free, one-year software engineering intensive course that does not admit based on SATs or GPAs, but bills itself as an alternative to a traditional American four-year undergraduate institution for those who just want to get a decent paying tech job and establish some financial security. They seem to have a good post-grad employment ratio thus far, though obviously it's a very new place. Let me just say, I find this so sad. Not the school. I think it's a great and much needed program. It just makes me sad that an undergraduate education that is considered very basic in the rest of the developed world and huge swaths of developing and even underdeveloped nations too, has now become such a luxury in the United States. In 1780, John Adams wrote, "I must study politics and war, that our sons may have liberty to study mathematics and philosophy. Our sons ought to study mathematics and philosophy, geography, natural history, and naval architecture, navigation, commerce, and agriculture, in order to give their children a right to study painting, poetry, music, architecture, statuary, tapestry, and porcelain." We've regressed and fallen far behind from a competitive standpoint, not to mention the intangible value of helping people live with enough knowledge to appreciate and enjoy the world around them. I'll spare you my brand of New York champagne socialism today, but yeah, H&M targeted this school because they're likely no longer permitted in public schools after the Harlem disaster, and simply not up to snuff to speak at the better universities, where every single student is much smarter and more familiar with pressing social issues than they are. And while I think the school itself is fine and good, their presence, to me, is the cherry on top of a decline of the Roman Empire sundae. As for Meghan's Letterman jacket, sure, whatever. I wonder how much money they gave to this school. Supposedly they gave a grant. I really hope it's a lot, but knowing them, I'm thinking it's only like $50,000. As for the Parents' Mental Wellness Summit, I recently caught a Sidley Twins video where they break down the board really well, person by person, revealing their CVs, connections to each other, and connections to H&M, revealing the material interests and true motivations of all involved. I'll link it below in a pinned comment. I'm not going to go over any of the people they went over in this video. It's well worth watching. To summarize it as simplistically as possible, the board is almost entirely made up of executives from the asset management and entertainment media spheres. I just want to say that I'm so disappointed, not in H&M, we know that, but in these two. Surgeon General Vivek Murthy, who communicated some very provocative, unsourced, unlikely statistics, and J. Raymond DePaulo Jr., a very highly respected doctor. First, let's talk about Dr. Murthy. According to the New York Post, quote, Murthy pointed out that nearly 3/4 of young people are struggling with loneliness, while 1 in 3 high schoolers are seriously considering taking their own life. That's a direct quote. That is a crisis. The true measure of a society is how well it takes care and protects its young people, he said. And then Harry added, there's nothing wrong with these kids. If any one of us in this room grew up with social media, we would probably react in this way. It's the world that we're allowing to be created around them. It really does take stupidity to put words in the mouth of a doctor, but Harry's done it. What's my problem? Those stats. A full third of high schoolers are seriously considering committing suicide. A full third at this very moment. Really. Source, please. I fully acknowledge that suicide rates have spiked among younger and younger people. I recognize they are the highest they've ever been, but those numbers seem made up. You're the Surgeon General of the United States. You can't just make shit up. And Vivek Murthy really got up there in his medals and everything. I'd also like to point out that while, for the sake of the forum, Murthy attributed this spike to negative social media influences egged on by Harry, as recently as March in the New York Times, he attributed it to kids being able to, quote, see the profound threats that we are facing today, like violence and racism and climate change, but they don't see effective solutions, end quote. In that same interview, he says, quote, young people tell me they feel caught up in hustle culture. What they're saying to me was that they felt that they were being asked to chase certain objectives, getting a job with a fancy title, making a lot of money, becoming famous, acquiring power. Not only did many of them say that they were exhausted, but they weren't sure that was going to bring them happiness. This is where we have to pause and ask ourselves, are we pushing our kids to pursue what's really going to lead to their happiness and their fulfillment? End quote. He's not wrong, but all that was equally true before social media. It's been true for a very long time. Perhaps it's just my New York perspective or personal cynicism, but has this not been the game since time immemorial everywhere? That is a problem that lies deep within American culture and government policy. And I wish he said that instead of letting dumb princes put words about social media in his mouth. I don't disagree with Dr. Murthy's ideas necessarily, but I certainly disagree with his shilling for this fake charity. It's not a charity. It's a bunch of investors from the worlds of media and asset management who want to create a for-profit app that will supposedly help young people find mental health care more easily. Again, an app people pay for to help them find mental health care they pay for. Sorry, how is that easier than the current system? It's just Uber for therapists. I think we already have something like that. Isn't that BetterHelp? In their utter selfishness and audacity, these investors are trying this fake charity marketing gimmick in order to raise investment from public funds, charitable donations, and charitable grants rather than making a capital call and bearing the risk themselves. These cheap motherfuckers want you to pay to develop their app that they will make money off of because your kids are depressed and you don't know what else to do. If I were the president, I would immediately call Dr. Murthy on the carpet and ask who he really believed the stakeholders of our nation are. But we know Biden won't do that because he is also a corporate lackey. I'm glad the New York press is snubbing Meghan so hard because otherwise this Surgeon General might have gotten more publicity for this fuckery. And now, my second disappointment from their board, University Distinguished Service Professor and co-director of the Mood Disorder Center in the Department of Psychiatry and Behavioral Sciences at Johns Hopkins University School of Medicine. An active clinician, teacher, researcher since 1977, over 39 years on the Johns Hopkins faculty, the founder of the Hopkins Affective Disorders Clinic, the Henry Phipps Professor and Director of the Department of Psychiatry and Behavioral Sciences at Hopkins Med, and psychiatrist in chief at Hopkins Hospital from 2002 until 2016. The author of over 140 peer-reviewed scientific articles focusing on clinical assessment, diagnosis, causes, and treatments of mood disorders, including early genetic studies of bipolar and unipolar depression. The legendary mentor of equally well-known scientists Francis McMahon, James Potash, Melvin McGinnis, and Karen Swartz. One of the lead developers of the Adolescent Depression Awareness Program, a model curriculum on depression for high schools. The current chairperson of the board of directors of the National Network of Depression Centers. The author of 2 books on depressive illnesses for patients and their families, Understanding Depression and How to Cope with Depression. The winner of multiple national awards for clinical leadership, teaching, and research in depression and bipolar, J. Raymond DiPaolo Jr., MD. DiPaolo, you know exactly what you're doing, and I guarantee you aren't getting as big a piece of the pie as the others. How dare you? As for Harry and Meghan, don't worry. They had absolutely nothing to say and will be affecting no one's mental health. According to Meghan,
being a mom is the most important thing in my entire life. And outside, of course, being a wife to this one.
That's weird because unlike many of you, I believe she has children. I also believe there's nothing she enjoys less than spending actual time with them because she gets away every chance she can. Harry said, quote, "There's a reason why no one else is working in this space. The size and the power of these companies can make you feel scared and helpless. We all understand that," end quote. Say what? Do psychiatrists, psychologists, therapists, and counselors not exist? What do you mean no one else is working in the mental health space? And what huge companies are you talking about? I presume Meta, X, and ByteDance? As if BlackRock, Netflix, Scooter Braun, WME, and the various other corporate interests sponsoring this summit and paying your appearance fees are any more ethical. Clearly, you've never considered that race-baiting ex-royals with a sycophantic fan base teaming up with BlackRock might be frightening to many of us. Harry is so clueless. Later on, he says, quote, "A little less profit to create a safe space would stop the suffering," end quote. FYI, BlackRock alone has $38.4 billion currently invested in nuclear weapons manufacturers. And I'm not even getting into their huge investments in other military weapons production and maintenance and domestic firearms manufacture. And Harry's talking about a little less profit to create safe spaces and stop suffering. I know I shouldn't expect more from the bitch who took a PJ to Uvalde, but damn. And of course, idiot Meghan follows up with,
I just think anyone who's a parent, and by the way, even if you're not a parent, you see your friends affected, you see adults who are affected by this. Everyone now is affected by the online world and social media, some more than others. But we all just want to feel safe. And in that, I think so much of it can come down to if someone is looking for something, please don't feed them the thing that they're not looking for that's going to harm them. The algorithms are very powerful.
While I'd like to imagine that Meghan's personal assistant assembles a weekly digest of links to YouTube fashion critique videos she emails to Meghan, triggering her weekly sobbing on the floor episode, I'm going to give her the benefit of the doubt and assume she's talking about Facebook, QAnon, fake news, foreign anti-establishment bots, etc. They also resorted to their usual bullshit lie about being impactful by saying we just can't see their impact because it's been secret. Every single article used the verbiage secret meetings, quiet meetings, secretly meeting with tech giants, quietly meeting with tech companies, quietly meeting with parents of victims, secret meetings with parents of victims. Why were the conversations so quiet? which companies? I don't believe them. The verbiage reminds me a lot of
I guess we wait a couple months and then we can hit the ground running. But up until then, I'm pretty excited.
But like you said, I mean, you've been here for 3 yeah, wedding first. Get that done.
We
but
can multitask.
Having said that, you have been quietly, like you say, behind the scenes, let's just say laying the foundations for your future work. Can you tell us a bit more about that?
Sadly, I can't.
that really is the oldest play in the narcissistic playbook. Just lie about something. Say you've done something you haven't, knowing that 20-25% of people will take it at face value. A further 65% of people just don't care either way. And you can scream louder and longer than and punish and abuse the small minority left who dare to question you. On a lighter note, Meghan wore a lesbian wedding tuxedo in slightly mismatched ivories for the occasion. An inexplicable choice for New York City in October, but she looked good for her. I'm introducing a new standard to my criticism. For everyone who calls me a snob and a mean girl, she looked good for her. W Magazine already has a fluff piece on her outfit with 2 different titles, depending on where you access it. Title 1, Meghan Markle's off-the-shoulder power suit is peak stealth dressing. Again, she's really trying to push herself as a member of the Uber class. Second title, Meghan Markle suits up in a luxe take on the power blazer. Meghan has no power, but okay. Stop. What am I talking about? She does have a fashion superpower. She can really suck the luxe out of the most expensive garments and jewelry. If you would like to purchase this outfit, you can. It's sold out. I don't think Meghan sold out these separates. I think she bought them or was gifted them end of season. I think she wears completely end of season stuff like a white suit in October on purpose because she wants to fake evidence that she triggers sell-through. But were you to travel back in time and purchase this ensemble at retail without her usual jewelry trinity of Cartier love bracelet, watch, and diamond pinky ring, it would run you just a bit less than $50,000. Okay, that's it for today. Dibble dabblers, let me know in the comments below. Do you think Meghan and Harry were just there to collect appearance fees? Or do you think they have a stake in this company? Toodles! Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.